Hey, broadcasting from South London. It's TFix Podcast, during which we talk about highs and lows of tech recycling life. My name is Tad. I'm the owner of the company. Next to me, well, actually in front of me, from now on, is Anthony, our repair supervisor. And today we're going to talk about the big one about pricing.
Yes,
Yeah,
and this is one I really wanted to talk about as well. Even just partly to dispel some myths, but
yeah,
I think it ties in quite nicely with the podcast last week when we were talking about how some repair companies or the stigma around repair companies generally. Dodgy. Am I going to get it back? Is it? Am I sending my product to a to a garage or a shed?
exactly. Yeah.
And I think the pricing and how it has to be in this industry can sort of stir up a few misconceptions. So hopefully we can iron those out this
Because
episode.
it's a touchy thing. Because I think essential thing to understand is at the end of the day, the only thing that matters to a customer is the price.
Yes,
It doesn't matter how professional a company is, how many stars they have, how experienced they are, how precise their operations are, and all that stuff, where they are located. If they are too expensive, no one's gonna go for it.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's the bottom line and does the product
Yeah.
get fixed? It's those two bits.
And we kind of what we always try to do. We try to juggle in between these two, just like be as competitive as we can with our pricing, but while staying more professional. But obviously, the more professional you are, the better service you're trying to provide,
Of
the
course,
more you have to charge.
of
So that's
course,
why the dude down the road, where he doesn't have any expenses, can repair your laptop in his bedroom for 50 quid.
might be able to.
Yeah, might be able to 50 quid, and he might be successful at some point.
Yes.
That's when, and we can't do that. Yeah,
But yes, I think that it's an important one to kind of talk about and to kind of explain and throw a little bit more light onto it. Because if I'm a customer and I send in my device for, let's say I want my PlayStation's HDMI port repaired. That's one of our most
yeah, most
common
popular ones. Yeah,
repairs.
yeah, it's the
Um,
most popular service. Yeah,
yeah, and it's usually pure and simple. If you've not got a picture on your screen or you've not got sound along with that, fair assumption to make that the HDMI port is wrong. So I will go on the website, I will pay for my HDMI port, or that's the service I request. In a few days, when the device arrives here, I'm not hit with a bill of 60 or 70. I'm hit with a bill over 100, and whereas I can understand where the customer's frustration comes from, there is a reason it has to be that way.
yeah, and frustration usually comes of not knowing things, so not being aware. And pretty much like if you type in anything video related into Google and PlayStation, it will come up that HDMI probably needs to be replaced.
Yes.
And in most situations, it might be completely true, but in some situations, in some circumstances, there are quite a few more things that can go wrong. And you could assume that your HDMI port needs to be replaced, but we actually are the guys that identify the problem, and we are the ones that try to get your PlayStation fixed, and we need to make sure that this is the problem. And what happens if that's not the problem?
Well, if
Yeah,
if I,
well,
if
we have to
we'll have to
do more work. Yeah,
exactly that. I mean, the way that we've set things up here, if you do send in something for an HDMI port repair and we find out there is, worst case scenario, liquid damage on the motherboard, a
yeah,
thousand and one things wrong with the machine,
yeah.
we can't really just fix the HDMI port. The console's not going to work properly.
Exactly, it's not going to work. So we came up with this requoting strategy, and we always give you the power of making a decision. So we will present our findings, and we'll tell you, okay, this is how much it will cost. You thought it was a HDMI port, but it's actually quite a few more things, and we can't. We need to get paid for doing this.
It's exactly that. I
Yeah,
mean, as I know we try our best to keep the prices down, but if we need to do a few things to any device, really, we're limited in how we can make it less expensive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and as we spoke earlier, like even the charity can't run at a loss.
Yes, yeah, it's
Yeah,
true. They can't.
and we're a business, so we need to make money in order to stay afloat,
Yeah,
especially during like this situation and knowing the current state of affairs.
yeah,
And
I mean that's definitely played a massive part in things recently, and that's I think the very first podcast we did. We were discussing how the prices
our
have kind of been
prices, yeah,
affected by the coronavirus specifically. But even when that wasn't a thing, and it's not going to be a thing forever, I certainly hope. Prices do go up and prices do go down. They fluctuate.
they fluctuate. We just like we flowing with the market.
That's it.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
kind of completely dependent of market of what's currently happening in the tech recycling industry because we essentially a recycling place, so we will try to get everything done as cheap as possible. That's just in our nature. That's our DNA.
Yeah, of course.
And if we're not going to be cheap enough, people not going to be using us. So
Yes.
we are interested in keeping everything in as low priced as possible.
And it is in everyone's best interest for us to do that, because if we can't, then eventually it will be less expensive to just buy a new device,
Yeah.
and that kind of makes the recycling industry null and void.
Yeah.
So it's something that has to kind of has an ebb and flow, and it's always changing. But there is a reason why it always changes. We were talking about services and paying for services. On the internet, how that's a foreign concept for some people. But I think when people send things for a service and then the price fluctuates, that's what can lead to some confusion.
Yeah.
I have spoken to people in the past, customers of ours, and the reception to the requotes has been a little, lukewarm at the.
You put it very kind, yeah.
Yeah.
So you put it very kind. There has been some fuck ups.
Yeah, and
I get that. I get that point. I get that point completely. But it doesn't change the reality of the situation. I mean, like you have a PlayStation. You called up and he told you it'll be 50 quid to get it fixed. Then you send it in, and it's not what you thought. You thought it's a HDMI port. It's actually a motherboard that needs to be replaced. And then you hit with a price of, let's say, £200.
Yeah.
So I get that completely.
I do.
But it doesn't change the actual situation. It doesn't change that we still can't get it done for 50 quid. It's got to be done at the price that there is.
We wouldn't even get the part for anywhere close to £50.
Exactly, yeah. So that's just, it's not that we're scamming people or we want to be a bad business and in a business of trying to get as much money as we can from customers. It's just what the market says for us to do.
I think another thing that's interesting, how we kind of combat the market almost to a certain extent, in the sense that the prices do always change, but rather than have someone rattling around on the computer all day tweaking all the prices as they go, we actually have an artificial intelligence that plays a massive part in doing ours.
Yeah.
So how would you explain how that AI how it works, the pricing out? I know it's dynamic, and I know that it can change on the fly. It's not common, but in some circumstances we have had people place an order for a device, let's say Thursday one week, and the service is one price. They wait over the weekend, send it the next day. It takes about a week to get here from when they initially placed the order, and then the price has gone up. And trying to explain that is tricky.
It's tricky, yeah. So let me just explain one thing. We run our services, as you know, on two bases. People can either go for the actual service if they know what needs to be done for their device, or they can order evaluation, and we will figure out what's wrong with it, and we'll give them a price for them to accept or deny. So we had situations where they think it's HDMI port and needs to be replaced on a PlayStation. They see it's $49.99, but they're not entirely sure. And they order evaluation service just to find out if it's that what they think it is. Then we figure out, yes, it's HDMI port, but 3 days down the line, the price has increased to £71. And they go like, oh, I've just seen that as £59, and I put all my expectations where they're supposed to be, and now you're telling me it's £71. What happened? So what happened is that our system has identified the demand for that particular service is pretty high, and our workload's high. So therefore, we made a decision to increase that price by 5 to 30%. And exactly the same happens when we don't have enough work and we sit around without the actual orders. It gives huge discounts on a website, just discounts all the services, all the trending ones, in order for us to get more orders in, to be more competitive. So therefore, once we have a huge workload, the system decides that and makes calculations and increases the prices. Or like, I wouldn't say increases, but it just puts them back at the correct level.
Yeah, I think that's worth pointing out.
So the prices are set at where they're supposed to be, like our prices, and when we don't have enough work, they are just discounted by a lot. And we're not in control of it, and the system has been set up to make this decision for us, just to make it easier, because we won't be able to. It's just impossible. We run next to 600 different services, so it would be next to impossible even to hire someone and do these price adjustments.
Yeah, and it will be. Well, it would literally be one person, as I say, rattling away at a screen all day, going mad, looking at numbers. So that's something. That's a good thing for an artificial intelligence to do instead of one of us here.
Yeah, so it does that for us. So hence why we always say, if we get an inquiry over email, especially, how much it'll cost to get one thing or the other thing done. This is like 99% of inquiries.
Yeah, it's a really hard question to answer. I have to admit, a lot of customers are quite happy with that once you explain it. It could be anything. It actually could be anything. If you, I know we keep using the example of the PlayStation and the HDMI port, but we figured a lot of people have PlayStation 4s. It's a kind of good one to go with.
Yeah.
But as we were saying, if there's no video, it's a fair assumption it's an HDMI port. But it might not be. It might be an issue with the motherboard itself. There might be certain components that aren't working. So when someone just broadly asks for a quote, what's it going to be? To be brutally honest, without seeing the device, your guess is as good as mine.
And they will always hold you for it.
Yes.
It will always hold you for it. So we always try our best not to diagnose. And if anyone will call and say, how much do you charge for HDMI port replacement? We always going to say.
Yeah.
But if someone's going to call, I think HDMI port needs to be replaced because of this, of this, of this, of that. Do you think that's the case? We can't say that because we're not sure until we see it. There is no way for us to find out. So we always try to stick like, okay, just go on a website, see the different pricing we have to grasp an idea of how much we charge for one thing or the other, and then bring it in for evaluation, and we'll let you decide whether you want to go ahead after evaluation is done.
Yeah, it's I suppose it's good that we let people sort of diagnose the issues. Sometimes people are absolutely correct when they send things in, and actually a lot of the time people that pick the services, they are correct.
They are correct, yeah.
But sometimes I can understand where they would feel there's a nasty shock in it if they send something in for a service that is X amount, and I then tell them, or we tell them that in actual fact it's double what you wanted. It's double the price that you expected to pay when you sent it in to us. But sort of with this particular broadcast that we're doing today, I was really hoping to sort of dispel some of the shady nature of that.
Why it happens? Why it happens? It's if you. I mean, like, I don't think any of the repair shops trying to deceive people, and it's just a stigma that's been built up.
Yeah,
and we can pick apart why the price has been increased during the actual provision of the service, and why a listed price might be different to the quoted price, and why most of the repair companies don't even list prices.
Yeah, a lot of them.
We are one of the rare ones that have most of our services listed and prices next to each of them. Like most of the companies don't even have pricing.
Because I suppose the closest thing that most people can relate to that would be similar to the services we provide would be like taking your car in for a service.
Yeah, to a mechanic, to a garage, yeah.
Yes, so you might think that, I don't know, the oil needs changing or something like that, and they'll let you know in a few days that it's not going to be £100, it's going to be 600 because you need this and this and this.
Because you need fucking engine to be replaced. Yeah,
because you need a brand new car.
And it's not your brake pads, it's your discs and your braided hoses or whatever.
Yeah, and the price just shoots up. The difference with it being a car is they kind of need your car, right? And I guess you can get away without having your PlayStation 4, depending on how much you use it. But I think...
but in a situation, you are completely right. It's exactly the same. It's exactly the same. You might think it's one thing that needs to be done, but because you're not probably a mechanic, you're not probably a PlayStation engineer, so you kind of like... it doesn't make sense for you to think that you would be right, but most people think they are.
Most people think they are. And you know, it's nice to... I mean, YouTube kind of does and doesn't help with things like that as well. It's very easy to kind of diagnose potential faults. But people can say an awful lot online with no accountability.
Exactly. You can say anything. You can share your experiences, and like stepping on your PlayStation and staying there for 15 minutes might fix it for some various magical reason, but it might not be the case in your situation.
And not to go too much onto a tangent, but the best one is I spilt water on my Nintendo Switch, but I put it in some rice.
Yeah. Oh, how many times we open up like game consoles and computers and we find rice inside?
Yeah. What did you want the rice to do?
Yeah. What did you want? Yeah. It's not a rice cooker, is it?
No. But it's just an example. But you know, you can misdiagnose things, and a lot of the time that'll be why the price is different when you send it in to us.
Yeah. So let's talk about how we actually calculate the pricing.
Yes, I think this is another one that is interesting as well. So I know a lot of the pricing is governed by AI.
But so predetermined pricing. But what actually happens when you guys get it for evaluation? And how do we do the actual evaluation? So if you want to shed some light on it, I'm fine.
Yeah, of course. Well, say with the evaluation, we always, at the very least, ask what the customer is experiencing. If they send it in for evaluation, we would normally want to know at least a rough idea of what we're looking for. So we will first and foremost try and replicate the fault that a customer is having.
Exactly. Yeah, it's important.
That's the most important thing. And there are a few things that we will just test generally. I mean, using the PlayStation as a perfect example. So again, it will be: is the controller connecting? Is it connecting to the internet? Is the controller working when it's not actually connected to the device? Is it taking in discs? Is it reading discs? Is it installing discs? There's a lot of things that we check. And that's kind of what we're going through with the evaluation. But it's not even just that. We even go down to the condition of the housing. If the housing on a console is bent, it might stop things working. It might stop the discs being fed in and out easily. So with the way that we price things, we'll if let's say a device needs a few services done to it, we will charge for one. But any additional services, we also incorporate a 50% off discount.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so
for those extra services.
All the extra services will be light. So during evaluation, we not only look for reported problems, but we will also find out all the problems.
Yes.
So the reported problem might be the PlayStation doesn't play games. But how many times we've got it and it doesn't even fucking turn on?
That's a lot. It's actually a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
My console doesn't play games. Well, you're absolutely right. It doesn't play anything. But at the moment, your console's as good as a doorstop.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So.
And then it's part of our evaluation service is figuring out why it is in the kind of condition that it's in.
That's why it's so hard to actually give customers our opinion without over the phone, over the internet, or email, or anything, because in their perception, it's not reading games. Yeah, of course, but it's not turning on. You need a new motherboard. Yeah, you need a new power supply or something like that.
And we also get a lot of kind of third parties involved as well.
Oh
It's
my
it's,
God.
it's the kid. The kid says, or
Yeah.
your kid says that it's not reading games. So
Yeah.
it could be anything.
It could be any mum. My PlayStation doesn't play any games. That's such a miscellaneous.
What does it mean?
Yeah, what does it mean? It just doesn't mean anything to us. Does it
Yeah.
come on? Does it like what happens when you put the disc in? Does it take any discs?
That's it.
Does it only play like DVDs? Does it not play games? Does it install games? Is it a hard drive? Wow, just like I don't want to go in there. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not even, you're not even just reeling off random things. We check all those things. There are so many things that can happen with I know we keep using video game consoles, but there are so many things that can happen with a games console. So many different parts inside that machine govern one specific thing.
Yeah, and we need to figure out. So during evaluation, we figure out what's wrong with it, and then the next stage is what would it take to get it fixed.
Yes, and I would say that it's not even 9 times out of 10. It's probably 29 times out of 30. We are correct with our evaluation.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But the one time that we're not, that is when the prices will need to change. So if there is no image, as we've said a few times in this broadcast, probably an HDMI port. But what happens if you change the HDMI port? There's no way of telling if that was the fault.
Yeah.
It's just it's the most common denominator there. You change the port, and then nothing happens. Where do we go from here?
Yeah, we need to see what else is there. Yeah, what else needs to be done.
Yeah, and in that situation, it normally is something fairly serious, and that would mean the price would jump up substantially. And it's not because, honestly, it's not because we're trying to fleece anybody. It's just because the component that will need to be replaced, if it's not a little HDMI port, is expensive to us. It's expensive to everybody.
And then again, we put the power in customers' hands and let them make a decision. And in most situations, it's not that we've not been right during evaluation, is that we've tried to fix it, but unfortunately that part is not fixable, so therefore we need to replace it. And the market tells us how much that part costs, and we need to relay all that information over to our customer and let them make a decision and propose them with the option to whether they want to go ahead with a new price or not. But that generates a lot of grief.
It can generate a lot of grief, but what I think is quite important to highlight is that there is a system to it. I mean, I know we've mentioned about our AI, but there is a system and a structure that we follow with quoting and with new prices. We don't just pull a number out of the air.
No,
there is a formula that we do follow with that.
Yeah, and the formula, to be honest, is pretty simple. What parts do we need to rectify the issue, and how long will it take us to rectify the issue? We multiply that by our hourly charge and how much will cost us to get the parts in, and that's the price for a customer.
And that's it. Yeah,
that's fairly simple. Yeah. And we put all that information into our software, press submit, it generates a quote, and that's it. We can't pick the price out of thin air. It never happens. So it's always based on calculation and that calculation is usually dictated by the current market.
Yes, which is as well.
Now it's as fluid as it can be.
Yeah, I was going to say exactly the same thing. I say now it's exceptional. And I mean it's not even with just our products anymore. There's a lot of things you can purchase that are just shot up. Because that's what happens.
Exactly. So we've been in situations where we quoted a customer for the motherboard replacement such and such price, and customer has taken a week to accept the quote, and we can't even honor that price anymore, and we're in a pickle of what we do next. So we try to be as flexible as we can.
Yeah, so we do try and be as flexible as we can, but the prices are. Well, they have to be what they are, really. We try our best to keep them as low as possible, but because of that, there isn't much leeway to sort of drop it anymore. Yeah, we sort of run the line, if you like, or sort of just keep running the edge. That's the best way to explain it, I think.
So the only variable we can affect is how much time we're going to spend fixing one problem or the other, and we're talking minutes. it's not hours that we spend on every single PlayStation, it's minutes. And if we cut down a few minutes, it only can cut down a few pounds.
And that's it.
It's yeah, so that's how much that's what we're talking about. So we can be as efficient as we can, and we always try to be. We're introducing automations and decreasing time, how long it takes for us, and coming up with new ways of getting it fixed. But it's all shaving minutes, not hours of the actual service.
Yeah, and say as some sort of the lab supervisor, every console that leaves our lab goes through so many stringent quality checks.
Exactly,
and
yeah.
that those do take time. I mean, the device isn't just fixed and flung in a box to come back to your house. Every device that leaves us, everything you can think of is checked on that device before it leaves us.
And a report is generated and sent automatically to a customer, as a PDF, where they can see what has been checked, who checked it, every single function where they passed or failed, and that's sent directly to a customer. So just to inform them of what happened during a quality check.
And sort of no matter how many minutes we can shave off a repair, that part is done regardless. And that always takes time.
There all the time.
It always takes time, but we wouldn't want to send things out without doing that. I think it's good to have someone else check your devices, just to make sure that they're 100% before they leave here. It's just part of the service.
And if anyone complains about their device not working after we fixed it, we always try to figure out, okay, so what happened before it left our premises and it arrived to a customer, and the customer noticed the actual problem? Well, what happened? Because we're entirely confident and sure that we released a working device.
Yeah, we're usually pretty shocked when that happens.
Yeah, usually pretty shocked. Like, okay, what happened? Did the courier damage it? What did customer plug in? Maybe he's using it incorrectly, or what happened? Let's try to figure the situation out. So for us, we always accept our responsibility, obviously, and we always take the device and we repair it and we refund if they're not happy and whatever. But for us, it's always like, okay, what happened between the time it left our premises before we packaged it and it arrived onto a customer's door? What happened in that period? It's not that we're entirely sure that we fixed it. We're completely confident we have a digital record of it being fixed and of it passing all the quality checks.
Yeah, so it's it's something we do take that part very seriously. No skipping time on that. Well, I think. Have we got anything else to cover in our broadcast?
Yeah, let's talk about service time.
Yes,
service time. So our service time is calculated also by AI, and it lets customers know before they order how long our current service time is.
Yes,
and that's pretty much very simple. It picks up how many orders we have, converts it into how much time it will take us to process all these orders, accounts for all the engineers that work in the department, accounts how many hours it will take for these engineers to complete all the orders, converts that into days, and outputs that information onto a website.
Yes.
So when someone calls up and tells us, oh, how long will it take to get PlayStation fixed, we physically go on our website and check.
Yeah, we actually check the website.
Check the
website,
because we don't know. We know it's going to take, a PlayStation 4 HDMI port replacement about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, including everything. But what's our queue? How many orders we have before? How long? We have and that's on a website. So when someone calls up and says, "How long will it take?" Let's go on the website and I'll find out.
Yeah, a lot of the things that we do are on the website. In actual fact, pretty much everything that we do is on the website. We use the same website that is up for the public,
everyone.
For everyone. So if someone contacts us asking for prices, I look on the website.
Yeah. For example, the issue I've come across recently is that if someone sends an inquiry asking for a price, we can't send them a price because we don't know when the inquiry will reach them, how long will take for them to see it. The price might be adjusted on a website dynamically. So we always send a link to that service. So once they open it, they know the exact price that's currently available on the website.
Because it can just change.
Yeah.
And
But one thing I want to mention is that if you as a customer will go on a website and you place an order for that particular service, we will always stick to that price, to the one that you ordered. It doesn't matter whether it changed during the period if it's taken you to submit your device over to us. During the recording, I managed to mess up and the video stopped recording, so therefore I'm dressed completely different because it's the next day and we just want to end the podcast the way we usually end.
I wear the same hat every day, so that's why I look the same.
Yeah. So thank you for listening to TFix Podcast, where we talk about highs and lows of technology, recycling, and tech life. And if you like the podcast, you should do the usual stuff, which is...
Yes, so if you do enjoy what we do here, please like the video, comment, subscribe as well, and give us some feedback. It's always nice to hear what you guys think, and if there's any interesting topics you'd like us to try and cover here on the show.
Yeah, thanks a lot for listening. See you next time.
Take care.